What is up? Welcome to the Vanflip podcast. This week I am joined by Yautja, Kayhan and Shibby of Yautja. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you doing?
What's up, man? Thanks for having us.
No problem. Congratulations on your signing last year with Relapse. That was, kind of big. How did that come into? How did you guys snag that? How'd that work out? I mean,
People that worked at Relapse have come to our shows and stuff like over the years, and there's been little talks here and there about like, hey, we like your band and we like what you guys are doing. If you ever had any interest in something, maybe we could put something out together or work together. And then, we finished our record at the beginning of last year without having a label or knowing who was going to put it out. So I kind of just reached out to them and was like, hey, is there still any interest in this? We've got a record and no home for it right now. And, it kind of just went from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask if, did you write the record after getting to Relapse or prior to Relapse? So that answers that question. But the record we're speaking about is the Lurch. So my main question was, why such the long gap between this one and your previous release in 2014?
We put out stuff in between that too. But I guess this is like our first proper full length in a long time. We kind of toured incessantly in between writing and recording stuff. Everyone had other musical projects that they were involved in. And then, just like the real life stuff that comes up when you're in a touring band, but that's not like your main source of income or
right.
We all have jobs and, family stuff comes up. I started a business that took up a bunch of time for me. But yeah, we've slowly been writing that record in bits and pieces over the years. And then I guess like in the last year and a half, 2 years ago, we kind of were like, hey, let's not do a tour unless we get offered something awesome, and let's focus on finishing this record and get it out there.
That's cool. And we probably jumped the gun a little bit. Kayhan, you play bass. Shibby, you play guitar.
Yes.
And you both do vocals. So
correct. Yeah, everyone in the band does vocals.
Yeah, because there's only three of you guys, and you make a lot of noise.
Yes, we try to create a lot of sound for three individuals.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like just three when you're listening to it. So I've listened to the Lurch quite a bit this last week, and one thing I kind of noticed is it's a little different than your previous release. Although, again, you've had some projects come out within the time frame of the last 7 years, but what's the biggest difference in the writing of the two records?
Shibby, you want to stab that one?
It was slightly more collaborative. A lot of the earlier stuff was very much just like me writing in my bedroom, and then just like showing semi-finished songs to everybody. Whereas this one, there were lots of stuff that was very much like flushed out altogether instead of that kind of cheesy, here's a song kind of way. So that was different and really nice by comparison.
Yeah, I think, like Shibby said, I think in the past it was more like, Shibby would even like write a song, and Shibby plays drums too. So like sometimes he would even like do a rough idea of what he thought the drums would sound like and then send us a demo. And it's like, okay, yeah, like this song is pretty much done. But yeah, there was more, all three of us fleshing out riffs and parts. I think the songs in general tend to be a little bit longer than songs on our previous releases. There's less of like the shorter 1.5 to 2 minute bangers and more like longer seeming like metal songs, I guess. but I think it's a pretty natural evolution. Like, we didn't set out to be like, okay, like this is going to be our metal record, and like every song has to be 5 minutes long or at least 3.5 minutes long. I think it was a pretty natural progression of our sound, and I don't think we sound too terribly different from like our first LP. But it's just, a natural evolution of us playing together for so many years and kind of knowing what someone's thinking with a riff or a drum part and being like, hey, okay, like I know how to complement that now because we've been playing music together for so long.
Yeah, I think, and Tyler and I, you could say are disappointed that the songs are so long on the new record. We really wanted more short ones, but it just didn't happen.
And why is that?
Because long songs are dumb.
You just want the shorter, like kind of grindier more songs? Is that what you were looking for?
It just didn't happen. I tried.
Yeah, it's funny too because like we were just talking about like a set list because we're playing our first show, in a year, or first show in almost 2 years, year and a half, on August 6th, and we were like, hey, what are we going to play? And now it's like less songs because the songs are a little bit longer. So it's like, hey, we can play like a bunch of new songs, and then we need to play, at least like a song from every release we've done. But then it's like, okay, now we're sitting at like 45 minutes to an hour.
Never.
So yeah, I think that's kind of what Shibby means. It's like
he seems to get into the long sets, not into the long set.
We didn't set out to write longer songs. It's just like, you've got a riff or an idea or two, and then to complete it, the song ends up being like 5.5 to 6 minutes as opposed to 2.5 to 3 minutes.
I mean, it's only 10 minutes longer than your last LP.
True. I did have a positive review of the record where people were like, this is too long. Like, towards the end of it, I got kind of tired, and I don't know, it made me think about how like, unless you're like a Doom or like, like Funeral Doom or Sludge band where people expect your songs to be 8 to 10 minutes long. I don't know. People have shorter attention spans, like people want like that fucking TikTok, Instagram mindset of like, this album's 45 minutes long. This song's 5 minutes long. Goddamn. Okay. I like it, but I'm going to listen to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That is a little bit these days. But I mean, in your defense against Shibby, it doesn't seem like a long record. So, you know what I mean? I had to like, it's 46 minutes, but it doesn't seem like it because it is fast paced, So it is really good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think Colin, our reviewer, actually enjoyed it.
Hell yeah!
We just posted
it seems
the
like
review.
An appropriate length for a full length album to me.
Yeah, it is. And like speaking of sound, and like how kind of like you've evolved and matured in your sound, how would you describe to just like the casual metal fan or the casual scene person, like what YAUJTA sounds like, or what they could expect with this record? Other than short songs against Shibby's wishes,
it's we seem to get kind of lost in the the genre world. I don't know. It's equal parts like death metal and hardcore and punk and grind, and there's like weird little like dissonant noise rock sounding parts. I don't know. It's just a good mixture of weird and aggressive music.
Yes, I agree.
Like I think to the average person on the street who's like not versed in metal or whatever, I just tell them we're a metal band, like, oh, I play in a metal band, like, to like a customer at my work. They're like, oh, you play music, man? Like, what kind of music is it? I'm not going to be like, oh, it's like death metal and grind meets like sludge and punk and this and that, because they're just going to be like,
whatever.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's like the normie on the street answer is like, we're a metal band, I guess.
Noise rock would be an appropriate tag, except the rock part isn't really but I don't know if it's technically noise core either, but it is definitely there's some noise in there. And which that brings me back to like a previous thing that I said, that there's just three of you and you guys make so much noise, but like, honestly, like, can you like, explain kind of like how you guys are able to just make so much noise as a group?
I mean, Shibby's got a nice loop pedal. That definitely helps. Tyler's a pretty active drummer, I'd say. A lot of that adds to the beefiness of it, and like there's a lot going on. There's layers. There's a looped rhythm guitar part, and then some dissonant lead type stuff over that. I think that helps create the illusion of a 5-piece band or a 4-piece band.
So is a lot of that in like post, or like not post, but in recording, or is that like kind of can you do that sound live as well? And do you have like the pre-banked guitar parts, or do you loop that stuff live?
When you mentioned the looping, I really only do that in like one or two songs, so it's not like a Russian circles kind of thing where it's like there's constantly something happening. But I do just little subtle things live with my amplifiers and stuff that sort of mimic the illusion of like a second guy or whatever, second person. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of funny business going on. Not like some bands do, no tracks. The 2 loops that I make or that happen at all in any song are made live every time. There's no like save thing. It would be a hell of a lot easier if it was, but
there's not a fat bank on his loop pedal. I think everything is done like in the song, or like right before we play. Like he'll like do it, not through his amplifier, but he'll do a quick loop of something or like a noise, and then it'll be saved in there just for that song.
Right. I guess maybe it's more like maybe I'm trying to get at the tone, and just like it just sounds so full. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that something that's kind of approached in post and stuff like that, or does that kind of transcend into the live show?
I think how our record sounds is pretty much how we'll sound live. Shibby has put in a lot of time into working with his guitar and amps and pedals to get a sound that is pretty unique. And like you said, like he usually has a stereo guitar set up, and he'll cut that on and off to kind of mimic 2 guitar players. And then, the bass is pretty simple. Like I try not to do anything too wacky or like have a super distorted or fuzzed out bass sound, because there is a lot going on with the guitar and drums. So yeah, it's not like hyper engineered, I'd say, but it is pretty intentional, our sound, like we want to sound like a loud, not loud band, but like have a big sound, I guess.
Right. And I guess all of you guys participating in the vocals adds to that too, with the many different layers of, frequency and stuff too. So yeah, I mean, it definitely comes across as, it doesn't sound like just 3 dudes, you know what I mean? It definitely sounds like a full band. So, I mean, kudos to you on that as well.
Thanks.
How was like the recording process without like, a label and everything like that? Were you able to kind of like achieve everything you wanted to? Like, did you get the proper funding, or how did that go about, getting into play?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we were held back by anything. We recorded at Electrical Audio in Chicago, which is like, I would say a bucket list thing for most of us, for all of us in the band. And it was engineered by Scott Evans, a buddy of ours. He plays in Kowloon Walled City. We talked with him about doing a record together for years, and it was cool to finally make that happen. I do think there was like, although we weren't on a label or weren't signed or anything, didn't know exactly who was going to put it out. I do think there was like something in our minds, like, hey, let's like really focus on this and make sure that like this is the best thing we can make with the songs that we have right now. Because we did put in a lot of time and money, a lot of time writing and getting the songs down. And then we used some band money we had and, threw in some of our own money, with the studio time and stuff. So it was like, there is something on the line here. I think we're a band who like always gets in the studio and like has a last minute thing happening, or like one song that's not necessarily completely done or figured out. And even like finishing up some vocal type stuff. But I do know that like we wanted this to be a big thing, for us as a band personally. But I don't think we were really held back by not being on a label while we were in the studio.
Cool. And how long was the process of the recording for you guys in total?
What were we there for? 10 days, Shibby? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And we technically did not finish in that 10 days. I blew my voice out, so I did like a song or two at home when we got home after our voice got better.
What's happening?
His dog is sick. He explained it earlier.
Oh, we got a dog. We got a dog hacking and coughing. Yeah, I think me and Shibby like kind of blew our voices out towards the end, and then did a couple of vocal things at Shibby's studio, which is in Nashville. Just because that's not as important to like to have a big room and get big sounds with vocals. So yeah, it was like roughly 10 to 12 days with finishing up the vocals and stuff. We stayed at Electrical Audio. They have a little apartments there.
Nice.
That was really cool. And I think that helps contribute to like being in the recording session, like not having to worry about like, packing up and commuting to wherever you're staying and, doing the same thing the next morning. It was just kind of like wake up, get coffee, and then go all day until, everyone's burnt out, and then just unwind there at the studio and pass out and do the same thing the next day.
Yeah. So what's your typical day there? Like what time are you waking up? Like, and how long are you guys like, how long are you working with somebody in the studio?
Yeah. I feel like we did like 10 to 12 hour days. Get up at like 9 or 10 and, get one of the interns at Electrical Audio to make us fancy coffee drinks and then just blast it. We even like cooked food there and stuff. So we didn't leave a whole lot. I mean, this was like pre-pandemic too. So like, I'm sure there are a lot of bands who would like go out at night and like get a beer or like go to a bar or restaurant or hang out with people or whatever. But we kind of just like stayed isolated before you had to. And just, focused on that. There was like movie watching and like playing Tony Hawk in between. But yeah, I don't know. It was pretty cool to be completely in it and not have to leave the studio.
Yeah. And Shibby, you have a studio, so did you kind of do any work on the post end after recording? You said you guys did some vocals at your studio, so did you do any like, mastering or anything at the end?
I added. I'm really sorry. He's having a really hard time. What did I do? I did some of the sequencing stuff here and vocals, and I had my friend Catherine, who plays in this band called Third Face with me. We had her add some guest vocals, and she did them at my place, and so nothing, not a whole lot, just some vocals and some of the funny like in between song noises and stuff.
Yeah, Shibby was probably more involved than anyone with like the mixing and mastering stuff, because that's like kind of what he does outside of this band is engineering stuff. And he like, he's like, if you're paying attention to Mark's iPhone. He's looks like he's soldering something.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later. Yeah.
Okay.
But
he's hard at work.
Yeah. Yeah, we did some vocals, some guest vocals, and then there's a lot of weird like the in between song sounds and transitions and stuff. Shibby recorded at his studio.
Interesting. How often do you guys get referred to as like the Predator like reference? Is it all the time?
All the time, yeah. I mean, it's in the name. So
was that deliberate?
Yeah,
big fans of the movie.
I think we saw, or Tyler and Shibby saw that name and thought it was cool. I don't think it was like something they necessarily like had the foresight to be like, yeah, we're going to be a band in 10 years from now too, and this is still going to be our name. But like, I think it's a cool name. It's unique, and
it definitely stands out. Yeah, I saw a couple of the bands I followed locally here, Yashira and Colonial Wounds, and some other bands locally here in the Florida area. They were sharing your stuff earlier on, and that's how I kind of picked up on it. And so, the name definitely stood out. That's why I checked it out.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just a name to us. Like, I think we get probably like some nerdy traffic that is not looking for a metal band stumble upon us because of that. But like, I don't know. I'm kind of glad we have a different name, even though it gets mispronounced and misspelled all the time. Like, I think there was a point where we were like, should we change our name? I don't know. Like, no, let's just stick with this. And I'm glad we don't have a typical like metal band name, like no offense to anyone, but like, like I'm glad we're not called like Oozing Portal or whatever the fuck, or like
I getcha.
Coffin Bomb or some shit. I don't know.
Dude, that's a good one.
Those are cool names too. Yeah, we have dibs on those, by the way. So,
have you guys ever thought about expanding into other members, or has that been tested before? You just kind of like the trio?
No, I don't think. I mean, it'd be cool to like collaborate with people, but I think we're pretty set on the trifecta. I think I had a dream one time where I wasn't playing bass and just doing vocals, but I think it'll just be the three of us.
Interesting. So Shibby, yeah, are you in your studio now? Are you at your?
I'm in my bedroom.
Okay. Soldering away.
Yeah.
What are you soldering?
I'm kind of building a spring reverb mixer.
Is this a hobby of yours?
It's kind of my job. I say pensively. I've been doing the recording console repair for like 4 years now. Therefore I do like kind of that and everything associated with that. So it's like patch bay wiring and snake wiring and console repair and rack gear repair and just everything that comes with that for my own studio and people around Nashville.
And how did you stumble into that? Just with getting into recording and you just needed to repair your own stuff, or?
It was kind of mostly through playing guitar. I am very cheap, period. So everything I bought, like to test to see if I liked it to play guitar, would usually be broken just because I could afford it better. And then, I had to figure out what was wrong with it to get any use out of it. So it was definitely a lot out of necessity. But I guess I've always kind of taken stuff apart and all that.
Yeah.
Shibby was on a streak at one point. Well, I mean, I'm sure he still does this all the time, but like he would just like on tour, whatever city we'd be in, he would be on Craigslist looking for like, a busted amp or like whatever piece of equipment that had been sitting in someone's basement for years, just like, hey, can we go pick this up? Like, hey, can we go stop by this dude's house and like I can grab this PV amp from the 80s that's covered in dust and cat piss because I think I can fix it.
How often do you succeed at that, Shibby? Fixing it, I should say.
I did a Craigslist run like 20 minutes ago.
No, but how often are you successful at fixing all the things covered in cat piss in someone's basement?
Oh, pretty good. I'll tell you what. About I think like a week or so ago, I saw an ad for part of a Rollin' Jazz chorus for sale, like on Craigslist, and they mentioned in the ad that the amp was like destroyed, or like it just was not functioning to where they were just selling this part of it. Mm-hmm. And I hit him up and was like, "Hey, what's up with the amp? Like, can I buy it?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I bought it, and I won't say for how much, but I had it working that night.
How often is it just like easy, simple fixes like that, and people are just frustrated without knowing what it is that's wrong?
You'd be surprised at how often. Yeah, it's like this, $400 to $1,000 piece of equipment that is taken down by a 50-cent component. But it's just the troubleshooting and the kind of knowing what you're looking at is where like repairs get expensive for like normal people.
And this is nothing like normies. This is nothing you like went to school for or studied for. You kind of just like picked it up out of necessity and like a couple YouTube videos or something, or some popular mechanics magazines.
Yeah, it was very much like a kind of a slow build, and then a slow build of just like reading and fit a lot of blowing shit up. Also, it definitely wasn't like, oh, I know how to do this. Like there was years where I just like destroyed stuff that I'm now going back to, and I'm like, this is what I did. What an idiot. Stuff like that.
Is your place or studio kind of like a little like graveyard / hoarding spot of like old equipment? Is it just like packed on top of one thing?
You think that?
Because you're going on Craigslist runs around the country picking up random broken equipment. I didn't know if you had like, if you guys towed an extra trailer just for that.
You're doing a lot of assumption right now.
I'm sure Shibby would be stoked if that was the case. Like, he would come home from any like tour over 2 weeks with like, a fucking trailer full of shit. I think it's Nashville though, like, because of like the history of music there, I think has so many people with just like basements full of like amps and recording stuff that, like someone passed away and they don't know what to do with, or like they gave up on something, so it's been sitting in a corner. I feel like Nashville is like great for someone like Shibby who can just like
picks up off on the curb alert,
Craigslist, and then find like, whatever piece of equipment.
Yeah. There's a lot of musicians or wannabe musicians up there, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
And how does that affect you guys? Because you guys don't live in Nashville, do you? Shibby.
Well, I live in Birmingham. Shibby and Tyler, our drummer, live in Nashville.
Okay.
It definitely like puts a damper on writing and practicing at times because I have to commute, but it's nothing crazy. We learn to make do. Like, I'm driving up there this weekend to practice.
Yeah, how often is that? I'm sorry. How often is that?
It really just depends on like what we have going on. Like we have a show August 6th. It's this band Withered. It's their record release show in Atlanta. So I'll probably be going up there pretty often until then, just to get back in the groove of things and get all oiled up for a live performance.
Has that always been the circumstance for you guys, like living in separate cities, or did you at one point,
No, I moved. I'm from Birmingham, and I moved there. Moved to Nashville in 2010. and lived there for about 5 years, and then moved back to Birmingham in 2015. So I was there like when the band kind of started. The band started without me, actually. I think they'd only played like 2 shows, maybe 2 or 3, maybe a little more than that. I don't know. But they had another bass player for a little bit, and then I joined when I moved to Nashville.
Off Craigslist, because Shibby's is on Craigslist. Always.
Yeah. I was like, hey, my bass is broken, and then Shibby bought my broken bass and fixed it, sold it for $1,000, and then asked me to join the band.
Nice. Shibby, what kind of dog do you have?
Like a poodle terrier. His name's Gizmo. He's 16 years old.
Wow, I didn't know he was 16.
And he has, right now, he's kind of dealing with what we think is congenital heart failure and a collapsed trachea, sort of like feeding each other.
Well, this is taking a different turn now.
Yeah. You asked for it.
I know.
This is
but
dark as fuck.
Yeah, I feel sorry for you. I have an elder boxer myself. She's 10, which is kind of in boxer world, up there.
It's pretty old for a boxer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I dread all of that.
Yeah, it's mostly this is extra miserable just because there's really so far like nothing hardly we've been able to do to help him in the past for 5 days or something. Basically like Friday night or so he started coughing like basically every other breath. So I'm talking like 24/7 since Friday I've probably slept like 15 hours.
Jesus.
It's like not happening because I'm kind of like babysitting him.
That sucks.
And at the same time, there's nothing I can do really to help him. But he's on 5 medications, tinctures. I got him some CBD.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude!
But
he's vibing out.
Honestly, yeah, I don't know. He's having a hard time.
Damn.
Well,
I'm sorry to hear that, Shibs. I love Gizmo. He's it's been the homie.
Yeah. I don't know Gizmo, but it is tough in general probably to deal with firsthand. So I send my thoughts to you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's coincidentally, I'm a pessimist, so whatever happens will happen. But I straight up asked the doctor yesterday, "Is he dying?" And he said, "No, I don't think so."
Oh, okay.
Wow. Well, that's good news, at least.
When you're
like, is this dog dying? Because I haven't slept because it sounds like he's dying.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't know if this was like absolutely the end or just kind of like we're getting there.
Sure.
16 years is a long time. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. And it's fucked up because like everyone at the vet was like, "Oh my God, that dog looks amazing. Oh, look at this puppy. Look at it." And then there was veterinarians looking at his chart and were like, "What? This dog is 16? What? Look how cute he is. Wow."
Nice. Well, maybe he just has a little doggy flu and he'll just shake it off.
That's what I'm really hoping. Yeah, it's been rough.
So anyway, let's get off that topic and let's brighten the room back up a little bit. No offense.
You don't want to talk about dead dogs anymore, or dying dogs?
We could, but then I'll get off here and then I'll think about my dog dying and then I'll be in the dumps as well. So, but with you tinkering around soldering with the reverb, Mark's iPhone went to no video. With that going on, how much custom gear do you have on your rig? Is it mostly custom? Like, have you like twiddled with it yourself, or do you buy anything and just use it out of the box?
As far as amplifiers go, I don't think there's anything that on my in my garage that I haven't touched. And most of that is not even necessarily something I bought broken, but just something I bought that is old enough to have needed to been restored. So most all of the amplifiers have had something done to them by me. There's plenty of pedals and stuff that I use that I just, are just there, but I guess there are a few things that I've built that are for me. But it's definitely not like, I'm definitely not like, oh, I can't use anything at Guitar Center or whatever. I have multiple boss pedals and whatever,
Yeah. I didn't know if that kind of played into the sound of the band, when I was talking about the sound, because you are tinkering with things. I didn't know if you were making yourself pedals or any kind of thing, gizmo gadget to amplify sound.
Yeah, I have right now. I've never played them live, but I have 2 amps that I kind of built for myself, kind of through quarantine, out of boredom, and one of them is something that I bought back in like 2012 and blew up, and then it's like, well, maybe one day I'll be able to fix that when I'm smart enough, and I got smart enough.
So you think?
Yeah. And so I've been having a lot of fun figuring that out, how to repurpose this thing.
Yeah, I feel like you get a lot of questions about gear. Like, besides like Tyler's playing of the drums, I feel like Shibby's guitar sound is like the thing people are like always asking about. And it's really funny because like, yeah, there's not any like hyper modded or like custom built things. It's just kind of like a certain combination of stuff. And same thing for his guitar. Like, I think it's the same guitar he's had for what, like 15 years, Shibby, or something like that. Like,
yeah, it's like a $200 guitar that my dad and I painted with car paint.
Did you take one of the pickups out, right? It's like...
Oh, yeah, it used to have a bunch of pickups and knobs and stuff, and we took out everything and filled in the holes to where it just has the one pickup and one knob. But it used to look really good, but now you can kind of tell it is different than it was at one time.
Do you have your eye on a new guitar, or are you just going to rock that one?
I don't know. I'm really picky about how bridges feel on my hands, on like my palm hand, and I'll like see something every once in a while and be like, "Oh, that looks kind of cool," and then put my hand or hands on it and be like, "Oh, that would never work." Like I don't, I think things look cool. Certainly, people make guitars, but I'm just kind of pensive to buy one or whatever.
Maybe you can build one. Frankenstein.
Maybe a buddy of mine. It's funny doing all this work. There's a lot of times where like nice woodwork might come up, like maybe a custom rack for a recording console or whatever. Just like sometimes woodwork works its way into the electrical engineering side of things, but I kind of hate woodwork. So I have a friend named Ian who plays in a band called Waxed, who's really good. He's like he's like a carpenter by trade. And I've like, especially over quarantine, I've been like super like, anytime I need anything wood related, I've just been pawning it off on him because I'm just terrible at it. It's just not happening. I can't use a ruler. You know what I mean?
It's good. Ian's good with wood. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good with soldering and circuitry and all that other stuff. Leave the
definitely
woodworking.
Say Shibby is like the overall like technical engineer person in the band too, because like anytime like the van is having trouble, he'll pop the hood and fuck around with something and be like, oh, it works now. We just have to like spray this into the fuel injector when we start the car and like cause this tiny explosion and the van will start until we get home. But
how often do you have to do that?
That's a reference to a specific tour, and it was a really
think we had to do that I don't think the van started on its own.
Yeah, you got to put the aerosol stuff into the carburetor or something like that.
Yeah, it was like
That's doing.
it's a long story. It wasn't our fault or my fault. There's a lot of things I'll take credit for as being my fault, but that's not one of them.
I think there was a full week, like the last week of that tour.
Does that have anything to do with the Big Flame 5000?
Excuse me?
Oh, that's something else completely.
I'm supposed to ask you, Shibby, about
like
Big Flame 5000.
I've never heard of that.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Sure.
Someone who looks like Shibby, who's slowly becoming an internet star, but we're not sure who they are.
Big Flame 5000. Interesting.
They do work with Flames. They work with Flames and Igniting, so.
Interesting. I thought it might have to do with, blowing the carburetors up in your van or something like that and it causing a big flame, but
it's a different type of carburetor. It's a different type of fuel and a different type of flame and a different type of life.
That was Nick from Frail Body.
Okay.
He wanted me to ask you that.
Yeah, watch out for Big Flame 5000. Blowing up soon on Instagram and TikTok.
Big Flame Summer.
Interesting. So what's next for the band? I mean, you got some shows coming up. How is working with Relapse going to change, how the band functions? Are they going to help you in any way as far as like shows and other promotions? And how long are you going to wait before you release like any other material outside of like maybe not another LP, but like, a single EP or anything like that?
I mean, the Relapse name like certainly helps with, getting tours and booking stuff and stuff like that. But, they've been good to us as far as like putting the record out and helping with like press stuff and all that. There's some stuff that, we've slowly been writing some stuff. I don't know when exactly, that will see the light of day, but I'm hoping it won't be as long, in between releases. We're playing a show August 6th. We're playing a festival in Little Rock, Arkansas towards the end of August. And then we're working on some tours for like later in the fall and earlier next year. So right now we're kind of focused on touring off of this new record. I don't know. Maybe we'll record something later next year or early 2023. But yeah, we do intend to release some other stuff with Relapse.
That's interesting.
I think the name, like, Relapse has a built-in fan base worldwide, so that's definitely helpful for our band.
Yeah, that should help you get worldwide too as well. How has the reception been since the record has been out for a little bit? How has the reception been without being able to play live and without having played live for so long as well? Like, how has it been, from your position?
It's been good. Yeah, I mean, I think the record's been pretty well received, like for people who have been fans of our band and new fans, and critically, it's been good. It's weird for a band on our level to not tour because, like, that's where we sell records, like we've never been a band that like put something out and it's like, oh, the record's sold out on the internet in a week. Like, we usually play shows and, people who are familiar with the band buy records, or we make new fans and they buy a record. So it's been kind of weird for that, for sure. Like, cause yeah, we're a band that tours pretty hard during normal times. But yeah, I mean, I think we're all happy with it. I think the label's happy with how the reception's been. It'll be cool to, over the next year or so, starting to tour and get out there to see. Because, that's a totally different animal, the live thing. I'm pretty stoked to get back to that.
Is the live show going to be more extravagant now that Relapse is involved?
I don't think so. No, we're kind of like a plug and play type band. There's no theatrics. There's no props. There's I mean, I feel like if we had like some walkout music as a band, it'd probably be something stupid or hilarious or like dumb.
The
like,
Predator theme.
That was funny, not like something epic or, We're pretty, like, when it comes to playing, I think it's pretty, what you see is what you get, We're not going to be wearing any cool costumes or anything anytime soon.
Sick. Who should we be listening to? Who do you think that, we should be checking out?
Shibby plays drums in a band that put out a record this year called Third Face. It's kind of like weird hardcore stuff. That
Short songs, I would assume, right?
What's that?
Short songs, I would assume.
Yes, short songs. Could play the whole record in a set. I don't know. I feel like I haven't been listening to a ton of new music this year.
What have you been? What have you been getting into then? Like older?
Yeah, like been listening to like older hip hop and weird electronic music. Trying to think of something that's came out this past year. I think seems like there's been a lot of weird like kind of throwback death metal that's come out in the past year, but I feel like that just ends up on like a workout playlist for me as opposed to like something I'm putting on like when I'm just listening to music on headphones or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think the new Perturbator record's cool. That's electronic music though.
What about you, Shibby?
I've also been kind of behind on things and just listening to tapes and stuff.
You prefer tapes, like cassette tapes?
Or I just, I don't even necessarily prefer them, but I had a van that had a tape player, and I didn't have like a CD player until I was like 14. So I had a ton of cassettes being a kid, and my first car had a cassette player, so it was almost just like, oh, I'm going to have tapes because this is what I have to work with. It's definitely not like I think they sound good or anything. It just turned into a light collection kind of thing. Where I still always hunting just like anything that looks cool or that I know what it is and would love to have on tape or whatever.
How many is in this light collection?
I don't know. I'm looking at them. It's maybe like 100, 200, something.
Interesting. And how do you decide which ones to get on tape?
I guess like you could treat it. I often treat it like if I see something that I've heard of that is, really cheap versus like, it's more of like an investment. If it's like, oh, I've heard this record is good, but it's 12 inches, like a 12-inch vinyl, and it's $18. But here's the same record on a tape for like $2. Like, since I don't know if I'm going to like it, I'm going to buy it on tape and,
Less of a gamble.
Say it again?
It's less of a gamble. Yeah.
Yeah. And they take up less space. And I like records too, but I'm at a point where like I won't buy a record unless I know I like it. Unless it just looks really cool or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just
Do you have CDs as well?
Yeah, I honestly definitely have the most CDs out of all of those. There's this record store in Tennessee called McKay's that has a section that is like bargain and or scratched, but like their definition of scratched is like very very moderate little scores or whatever,
light wear,
to where it's an excellent place to just like anything you've ever heard of, but like just like never actually heard. It's like, oh, this is a quarter. I'm gonna check out the Throwing Muses or this Tori Amos record I've never heard, or you know, why is there always Tori Amos records in bargain bins? Like,
Because she made a lot of them in the 90s and 80s and stuff like that. They were just mass producing that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the assumption I have. Yeah, I'm a fan, but it's really weird how dependably you can find her CDs and tapes.
Tori Amos is like, it's like volatile in people's music collections, you know, like.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone really like. I don't know. I think she had bargain stuff back in the day too. No offense.
So it's been.
Yeah, it's just been. That's her marketing ploy. You know, you get it out there enough in the cheaper zones, and you just constantly flood the market. You know, repetition. You eventually will pick one up and buy one.
Yeah, I think my assumption was that back when she got big, it was like the music industry was sort of like looking at all the stuff that was getting popular and was like, we can't find the trend very much. Let's just like throw a bunch of money at like whatever seems sort of promising and just like hope we get lucky. And it was like, let's press like 10 million of this CD because we might need them, or, you know, yeah, well, you know, this looks promising, you know, let's go hard with this. And then it maybe didn't turn out. So where, those CDs are.
There's a certain VHS that's like, I think it's what is it? Jerry Maguire? Yeah.
Oh,
there's like an insane surplus of Jerry Maguire VHS tapes.
That was a big movie.
Like that. Like, you're guaranteed to find a Jerry Maguire VHS at like any used media store that sells VHS tapes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like that principle of whatever industry maybe not understanding their market and just like, we're going to throw everything on Jerry.
Yeah. I mean, to nod your head though, that movie did probably very well. They probably didn't lose a lot of money with all those VHSs.
I'm sure it did well.
Yeah. Yeah, you sound like you have a very eclectic collection if you're having Tori Amos and then you're getting, you know, tapes. And how do you decipher which one? I guess we already asked that. You get the tape is cheapest and then you just kind of like wing it. I'm just thinking out loud.
They travel better on tour too. Like, I mean, we definitely like hit up record stores and media stores and shit like that on tour. And like, it's a pain in the ass to like come home and ride around with like, you know, 10 LPs as opposed to 10 cassette tapes.
True.
Yeah, I only buy records on tour if it's like something that's like been on my, you know, my list or, you know, my mental whatever, something I've actually been hunting for. It's very rare that I'll just be like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. Yeah, I want to take this in the van for 3 weeks.
True. How often do you guys make it a point to visit record stores and, you know, while on tour?
I mean, I don't think it's like because of, you know, what we just said, like, I don't think we're like hunting them down per se, because we usually are like broke asses and don't want to travel with vinyl for weeks and weeks. But like, I don't know, it's on the list of places like when you roll up to a venue and you have time to kill. It's like, okay, where's the good vegan food spot? Where's the record store? Where's the movie theater? Where's the arcade? Like, it's in the list of places that if it's nearby, we'll hit up for sure.
Interesting. You just mentioned vegan. So how many members of the band are vegan?
I think just Shibby, but you know, we all skew towards that vegan, vegetarian food. We definitely like to eat food. Like, that's a huge thing with us. Like, I feel like there are bands who just like slam Subway or McDonald's or whatever every day. We are Taco Bell fans, but I think to like keep up the morale on tour, we try to eat good shit. You know, we seek out good vegan food and banh mi's and vegan bakeries and shit like that. Because I don't know, if you're on tour for like a month or a month and a half and just like eating terrible fast food the whole time, it fucks you up mentally and physically for sure.
Yeah. Shibby, so you're the vegan in the band, and I always seem to have like there's a lot more members of the scene that are vegan than I would ever imagine, and I think they are a big percentage of the people I've had on this podcast, oddly enough. So I always have these conversations with with like-minded people like yourself. What would be the dish that would turn me on, like, to eating like decent vegan food? Like, what's your go-to dish to show someone like what vegan food tastes like now?
I don't know. That's a pretty good question. The Impossible thing comes to mind just because that's such a go-to of people who eat everything. Is like, oh, but what would I have in my burger? Oh, and as I've been vegan like 11 years or something, and the Impossible Burger's been around for like 2 or 3 now, and I get it, semi regularly from like White Castle or whatever. But it's still like, and maybe it's just because I'm out of the loop because it's been a while, but I still get like kind of nervous every time I eat one because it seems on point to me. You know what I mean?
Is this meat?
How would you know, though, if it tastes on point if you hadn't had a real Crystal Burger in 11 years, though?
Well, yeah, or, it's like, I'm just going off my memory here,
right.
But
no, they definitely pump more chemicals and stuff to activate your brain way more than they have back in 11 years from here.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, and like... it might not have been like this everywhere, but like Nashville in particular with vegan food, like 10 or 12 years ago was like so different. Like, I don't know. It's a pretty good question though, as far as like what would make someone consider converting or whatever.
That's not the question. That's not really the question. That's what would be a dish that would turn people on to maybe thinking about it, not like necessarily converting them.
I feel like anything that like simulates, like is like a mock meat or like simulates the non-vegan version of it, like, I don't know, like he's saying about like an Impossible Burger or like Beyond Meat. Like I've had, like maybe like a Chinese or like Thai dish that has like fake meat in it. I've had shit like that. That's like way better tasting than, actual chicken, for example. Like,
yeah, that's a good
like giving someone like sesame tofu and fried rice. I feel like that could convert somebody who, or is like a good modern depiction of like what vegan food is now. There's some things that just like shouldn't exist in the vegan world that like try to imitate the meat version. Like I've definitely had I've had some really good vegan Philly cheesesteaks, but I've also had like a vegan Philly cheesesteak that was like just tasted like Play-Doh and like fucking slime and made me want to vomit.
Yeah, like on the subject of the Impossible, I'm definitely not like saying it's like my favorite thing because like I'm really not into like the food that is like trying to be other food, and I don't eat it very often, really.
More, so it's more of the ingredients and spices kind of guy.
Sorry,
more like an ingredients and spices kind of guy.
Yeah. There's. I don't really cook. My girlfriend is like a chef and is also vegan.
Well, that helps.
So that helps, but like, she's one of these people that almost will like never have the same meal twice in a way, to where I'll be like, "Wow, that was amazing," but it never comes back in a way to where it's like, "What was that one thing?" Like,
yeah, she kills it.
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, that seems like an awesome time. Definitely, if you're trying to be vegan and not eat the same, thing all the time, having someone that has a culinary experience and also being vegan is a help. Let's end this podcast on the artwork for the Lurch. Where did the artwork come from, and what does it represent? Because it is very eye-catching and very memorable. That is another reason why I checked out the album, just because, the name and the artwork.
Our friend Brandon Gertz did the artwork. He's actually originally from Florida, I believe. And that's when we met him there. But we've done some stuff with him in the past. We did a split with this band called Forn. He did the artwork for that. He's done a couple shirt designs for us. We just really like his style. I feel like his style, he seems like he has a similar style in the art world that we have in the music world. I don't know. We gave him the music and we gave him the lyrics for the Lurch, and we're just like, do your thing. And I think it's a pretty good match for the music. He kind of knocked it out of the park to us. I think it's fitting. I don't know. Like, I couldn't tell you exactly what's happening on the cover, but it feels like it fits and makes sense. So, yeah, we're super stoked about that.
It definitely pops. That's
yeah.
That's one thing. I think another one that popped to me earlier this year was God's Hate. Their album really popped to me with the artwork.
That's
and then
super colorful and eye catching for sure.
Well, guys,
go
ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, go ahead, Shibby.
I was gonna tell a small Brandon story that I like telling people. The first time we ever worked with him was for that split. I think Cam mentioned with that band called Fjorn from Boston. And when we were in Boston one time, we met with an artist friend of theirs to discuss maybe having them do the art. And I'm not shitting on this person at all, because their art was awesome, but it was just sort of a funny comment on us as a band. We met this person and they were super professional and had a real ass portfolio, and we had a business dinner to talk about art and stuff, and it just felt very proper and grown up, so to speak. And yeah, their art was incredible and everything. Not at all knocking anything about them, but so we met and had a great time or whatever. And then a few weeks later, we were in Florida, and we were meeting up with Brandon to decide whether or not, or just to see who we would go with. And we met him at a show, just one of the shows, and I just remember him being sort of the exact opposite of that person in a lot of ways, in the sense that he was very quiet and reserved, had no portfolio, and basically it was just yeah, I do your art, just very nonchalant and understated, just in a way that afterward, without question, we all kind of looked at each other and we're yeah, it's got to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed like
we were familiar.
He seemed like
and we were familiar with his art.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, had you seen some of his stuff before, or he just was hey, yeah, I can draw you something?
We had seen stuff online, but yeah, whereas the other person who showed up with literal portfolio and was pulling pieces out at the table, Brandon, and was just kind of very much in there. I'm just yeah, I mean, I could do it in a way that, to me, let me know that he was the right guy, so to speak.
Well,
I don't know. He just, you could almost say he looked confident in a way I appreciated.
You kept it DIY instead of semi-corporate. Yeah. Well, it turned out to be the right choice, obviously, because I said, it's very eye-catching.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time, and I hope you guys can get down here on tour. I would like to see it live, see the Lurch be played live, and some other songs. If you can make it to North Florida, that'd be cool. But if not, I'll probably catch you soon. Again, thanks for spending the time with me on the Vanflip here.
Cool. Thanks for having us, man. It was a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll be through Florida in the not too distant future.
Awesome. Well, Shibby, Kayhan, you have a great evening, bro.
Thanks, man. Take it easy.
Take care.
Yeah.
You too. Take it easy.